Welcome to Unfiltered Summit Sisters. I'm Gina.
And I'm Julia.
We are two ride-or-die best friends who are paving the path for what true, authentic relationships look like.
We're facing hardships head-on, having real, uncensored conversations, supporting each other's growth, and shining a light on true, raw healing.
We are navigating the world the best we know how.
Having a hell of a time doing it.
Laughing every step of the way.
Through the rain
and sunshine.
This is Canyon Culture.
Today's episode is on gratitude, which is something really special to my heart. It's been a big thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
My whole life, but then especially, I'm so grateful to have had the practice of gratitude and generosity and positive thinking going into the divorce and single parenthood.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely been a game changer.
Yeah. So we have a mutual friend who has a friend who every November held, what would you call it? Because it wasn't like a podcast, because it was just once a week for November.
Like a gratitude challenge?
Something like that. Where she would interview other people and they would just have discussions about gratitude and generosity.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the first year I had joined that was a game changer for me. That started everything. And I'm a pretty positive person in general. But I was also deep into, I think I was probably, at least 7 years into the toxic marriage. Mm-hmm. So even though I was a pretty positive person, I was living in a lot of darkness. Mm-hmm. And so I implemented these things knowing it was going to benefit my business and my life and my kids and all of these things without knowing how much I needed that to be able to be where I'm at now. Mm-hmm. So we'll just call it a podcast, 'cause I don't know what else to call it, because you just listen to it. I don't know. They're episodes. It's fine. So it was 2016. I have it written down right there. First year was 2016. Who was born then? That feels like.
That was in between. Mason was born 15. James
I love
17.
that we both go what kids were born, because I literally was like, okay, so that's between Adam and Thomas.
Yeah, that's between Mason and James.
This is mom life, right? Okay, so I went through my notes today, and there wasn't they told a lot of stories, but there was just a lot of what she called nuggets, and I was like, I love these little nuggets, and I wrote them down, and I loved having them. But because of this generosity and gratitude podcast that she would do every November, one of the things she challenged everybody to do is to do a gratitude journal. Mm-hmm. And since 2016, I have been pretty dang consistent with having a gratitude and generosity, or a gratitude journal. And what that's done has changed so many things, because at the end of every day, doesn't matter how crappy of a day it was, especially during the marriage, I got to sit down and find all the places I was being blessed. I still had amazing things. I have so many journals full of these things that happened throughout my day. And so it made me look for the good. It made me look for the positives. And so even though there was a lot of darkness in that time, I have journals and journals of things of, God's hand everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think that's been amazing.
I think that's so important. It's so key, because it can help you move through those dark times, because you're not alone and God's hand is in it.
And I think that practice of always looking for, because you're never alone. He's never not with you. Mm-hmm. And so to be in that practice of always finding it, and then for me to implement that with my kids have gratitude journals. When we did homeschool during COVID, that was one of our school subjects was gratitude, and they had to take their gratitude journal up a notch, and they were really loving that. None of them put that in their gratitude journal, but we upped that. And so now, and the thing is, I'm noticing and learning how gratitude shifts and changes depending on what you're doing to practice gratitude, shifts and changes as your life changes. So right now my kids are not writing it down. I still do, because that blesses my life and I see that. But for my kids, we do a lot of affirmations, which I think is part of it. And then we talk about what we are grateful for every day. So everybody says 3 things they're grateful for. And then even just in the last couple of weeks, we've started implementing one thing we're grateful about ourselves, so that we can start learning and be comfortable about talking positive about ourselves and what we're grateful for about me. I'm grateful for my heart, that I'm pick a thing, because I'm uncomfortable with that, and I'm learning how to love myself, and I'm learning how to sit comfortably in a space of thinking and being positive about myself. And I want my kids to not have to overcome all that I've had to overcome. I want them to just come into the world going, I know my worth. I know my value. I like this about myself. No one can change that.
Absolutely. I love that.
It's awesome. So what if we go through and I share some of these nuggets and we can just see what comes up for a conversation? Yeah. How do you feel about that? Okay. So one of them, if you're going through hell, don't stop and build a house. I love that.
Yeah.
We're going to go through hell. It doesn't say don't go through hell. It says when you're going through hell, don't build a house. So yeah, you're going to go through it. Mm-hmm. Don't take up residence.
Right.
Things are happening for you and not to you. That's one we're learning a lot right now.
I think that is huge because it takes you out of that victim mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that is so toxic. That victim mindset really is consuming, and it really, like, that black goo just gets everywhere.
It really does. And when you are deep enough in it, you cannot see it.
No, you can't. But I love the idea that as you and I have gone through our journey, I'm going, this doesn't feel good. I don't like it.
Yeah.
But then we both go like, but what are we learning from it?
Yes.
Because even if it is a quote unquote bad choice or maybe not the right choice, I think we're learning that that's not black and white.
Yeah.
That's not how there are some choices, like, yes, not murdering, good choice.
Pretty black and white.
Murder,
wrong.
We get that. But there's a lot of other choices, especially as single parents, that we make that aren't wrong, aren't right, not bad, not good. They're neutral. And because both you and I tackle it with such, we're going to go for this, and no matter what, we're going to learn from it, and we're going to grow. It makes it into a good one. I think that's what it's happening for us.
Yeah. And I think that because we've done so much work in this aspect of victimhood and feeling like a victim, that we now know what that energy feels like. And so when we're discussing things, when we're addressing things, we may say something and then immediately one of us will be like, oh, that feels kind of victim-y.
Yeah.
Like, we can recognize that energy a lot easier now. And then we're able to turn that back into, I don't want to say positive, but productive.
Productive is perfect.
Because in victimhood, that takes the power away from you. I'm helpless. I can't do anything. I'm stuck in this.
Yeah.
Just right. But it turns it to productive. It gives the power back.
Absolutely. I love that.
You stand in that position of power again.
Yeah. And that's what we're here for. Like, we are here because there are things in life that do happen to us. Like, I'll be honest, there are things we have no control. Other people have agency. Other people make decisions, and they do affect us. But how we handle that, we have complete control over. We absolutely have all of that. Okay, this one I like because, again, I think both you and I are learning this one right now. If I'm not present, I'm either in my past or my future. Be in the moment. And I think that I used to think that if I wasn't learning from my past and planning for my future, that I was being irresponsible. And I'm learning now that it's like, no, I'm in general a responsible person. And so I can learn from my past, but I don't have to dwell on it. And I do need to plan for my future, but I don't need to hyperfixate on it. And if I'm in my moment, I'm able to learn and grow and teach and be blessed and bless.
I think that's hard as single parents because there's so much responsibility on our shoulders. And at least speaking for myself, like, I just want to make sure that we have the next 18 years planned out.
If we could just nail down the next 18 years, that'd be so
and everybody's needs are going to be met for the next 18 years, then I'd feel better.
If we could get the calendars solidified, if we could get it, also, we need it in
Finances
writing,
secured,
and digitally, and mass produced for all the people involved.
Everybody needs a copy. But that's just not how life works.
No.
And so
learning to be we have to be fluid.
Yes. And so I
Every
love
parent
learning
does.
to be in the moment. My dad is actually really helpful with this.
Is he?
Because I will call and talk to him, and every time I talk to him, he's like, you've got it going on. Like,
You're
are
doing
smart.
fine.
Yeah, you're smart, you're wise, you're making good choices. Relax. Be in the moment.
Enjoy it.
Enjoy.
I think that's part of it is we don't enjoy how, like, we work so hard and we don't enjoy the fruits of our labors.
Yeah.
And we need to.
But I think we are. I think we are
getting
starting
there.
to. We're doing a better job.
Pizza night, pancake morning.
Yes.
Like the hammocking and reading in the summertime. I think that gives us those moments too. We work hard. Because I think part of it too is that we go, if we're not working 24/7, we're failing. And that's not
Yes.
okay.
That it's
We
the
have to
whole,
earn.
you don't have to earn rest. You don't have to earn rest.
Did you hear that? Because I struggle. You struggle. When she first said it, I was like, you don't? Are you sure? Because that's literally like, there was so much. I remember in my marriage, he would come home and I had little kids. And he'd be like, what did you do today? And you know what I mean? And that just like, and I was like, I'd look around and be like, I don't know.
Yeah, really.
And now I'm going, I freaking kept people alive.
Yeah.
What did you do today?
Yeah.
Did you keep people alive? No. Winning.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was,
rest is, we were created to have rest.
yeah, we need it.
Yeah.
But that's part of self-care too. That's another one. Self-care is a choice. That was a nugget that was in there that I needed to hear. That you have to choose that. You have to put effort into self-care.
I think that can be really hard to hear for some moms, especially because, again, we can get into that victim mindset of, I don't have time for self-care.
Yeah.
I have kids. I have this. I don't have time for that. But in reality, it is a choice. You have time for what you make time for.
Yep.
And even if that's 5 minutes, you have time for self-care.
Yeah. But I also think, and I learned this more as a single mom, that I have to. That because and I didn't realize that I was the only one pouring into my kids. And now it's like physically I'm the only one pouring into my kids. And if I have an empty cup, I can't pour into them.
Absolutely.
And so it shifts the energy of, I needed to take that away to make me not feel selfish. And now I recognize that I do my training, I do my healing, I do my walks, whatever it is that I do for self-care makes me be a better mom. And those are becoming top priority, and I no longer have the guilt of it. And it's because of my kids.
Okay. The self-care part is so important because part of that self-care for us is spending time with God.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And by spending that time with him, he is able to fill us to overflowing, so then we're able to love on others more.
Yeah.
I have more capacity to love on my kids when I spend time with him first.
And he can speak to you about what they need to hear because you're putting that space and you're making it a priority.
Yeah.
And so when you're spending that time with God, he can say, hey, I need you to go talk to your kids about this. Or when you're in a moment and they make a comment, you've already set your, your church had sermons that they would post online that we both listened to. And one of the pastors, she said, do you remember what she said about what she spends time with God in the morning so that she's able to be, she's like putting on the armor for the day or
She's positioning her heart before she knows what the day holds.
Yeah. So like she's prepared because God knows what her day holds. And so she's partnering with him so that when she goes out into the day, he's already got her tool belt filled with whatever she needs to do that.
Yes.
That's what I feel with my time with God.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I love that. This is one that's been big for me lately is give out compliments. It's good for your health and others.
Yeah. I love that.
I'm loving giving compliments. It's scary sometimes and I don't know why. But I'm learning how to receive compliments, which is still very uncomfortable, but I'm getting better.
Yeah.
Having you and your family here has been helpful. But like I remember driving by someone, I was like, I really like her hair. And I was like, I should tell her. And I was like, I'm too scared. And I was like, don't be scared. Who would, like if somebody stopped you and was like, I really like your hair, and then kept going, you'd be like,
what? Feel like Beyonce.
No, yesterday morning I woke up, I gave Russell a hug. He goes, you smell good. I was like, I do. I got so excited.
Remember that girl at the pancake house that we went to? We went on a date with just the older ones.
Yes. The waitress. And you
She
complimented her.
She had a really pretty smile.
Yeah. And I love that you, like, it brightened my day to hear you compliment her and watch her.
But did you see her face?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's part of gratitude. Like, I don't know. I love that.
Yeah.
That's one of my goals every year is like, you need to compliment people more. Strangers, people you don't know. Because I can compliment you all day long, and that's in my comfort zone, and that doesn't count.
You have to. I'm just kidding.
It's part of the rules. Soulmate.
Part of your responsibilities.
I love this one. The best way to heal is to serve.
Yeah.
I love that. Because what is it? I don't know if this is in the Bible or in the Book of Mormon, which is part of my religion. But it says that charity is the pure love of Christ. And I love that because we talked about that. You were sharing what you were reading in the scriptures the other day, just about how by us serving each other, we're serving God.
Yeah.
And the way we treat others is just like if we were treating God that way. And so for us to heal our hearts, we serve God and we serve each other. And I think that was, I don't know, I always love that idea.
It is so powerful. It can be hard in the moment though, because when you're in a dark place and you're facing a lot of brokenheartedness, whatever it is, right? A lot of times, at least in my head, I've had those thoughts or those lies of, I don't have anything to give anyone right now.
Right. What am I supposed to give?
I'm in a dark place. I don't feel, like I can barely take care of myself right now. What am I supposed to do? But there is something so powerful about stepping out of that and serving someone else. And it doesn't have to be huge.
No. And that was one of the things that happened on like the third day here. It says we can always be generous. Our words, our purpose, and our intentions. It doesn't cost anything to give a compliment.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost anything to serve people. Like you don't have to, because one of the things in our church is a big service is to like take people meals, and that always feels so overwhelming to me because I can barely feed my family. I hate it so much.
Yeah.
And so for me to have to try and find a recipe or find food or money to pay for somebody else's food that they're gonna like is so stressful, when sometimes it's like when they're out there doing yard work and you just join in, that costs me nothing.
Yeah.
Or if I just say, hey, you're on my mind, I just want you to know that, like I said a prayer for you today, may change their whole day.
Absolutely, because it makes them feel seen. And if you're in a place where you feel so alone and it feels so dark, just to be seen.
That was a big thing with our relationship, is just we would Marco Polo every day. And I was like, you don't have to respond to any of this. I just need someone to know that I'm alive today. Because that's what it felt like for the first several years, is I was just like, I could die. And if my kids don't notice, if like, no one knows. I was alone that much.
Nobody will know till they need a snack.
Or I start smelling enough. But it was just like, I kept having this dark thought that was like, am I like a part of this world if no one, like, if a tree falls in the forest doesn't make a sound kind of an idea.
Right.
And so I would literally have days that were dark enough that I was like, I just need you to know what I'm doing today, not so that you can praise me, but just so that somebody else knows that I existed today. Because my kids don't recognize it because they're little.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's no other adult that's like, oh, she's here today.
Right.
And that's not a criticism on anybody. It's just how life is.
Right. It is.
And it's hard. Let's see. I don't know if I want to share that one. That one's a whole nother episode. Be creative with your generosity. I think that's what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Words, energy. But I think you called me last week and you're just like, hey, I just prayed big over some stuff that you and I are working on. And I was like, oh my gosh, you pray about me?
I do.
And I was like, I felt so special.
I do. Last week, there were some things that you were going through, and in my morning time with God, I was going to battle for you. I was like, why is she facing this? I was like, she has been faithful and she has done this and this, and I don't understand. And like, God and I had some words.
You went to battle for me?
Oh yeah, we had some words.
There are feelings happening inside right now. This is what a partner feels like. They're like, I'm like speechless. Like, oh my gosh.
You do the same for me though.
I don't feel like I need to do more battling. I need more armor. I feel like my time with God is so me and him and my really small kid bits. And I feel like my service for you is more like showing up at your doorstep. And that's something to learn, is like, and the way you serve my family and the way that I serve your family don't have to match.
Yeah, none of it
It's not
does.
like there's
not black and white.
Oh, weird. I'm trying to think what I was talking to the kids about, and I was trying to share with them. It was the idea of service is the true love of Christ. And I was like, who do you see serving? And they said a bunch of dumb stuff because they're kids and they were wanting to get out of it. I was like, no. I was like, do you watch our families serve each other?
Yeah.
Our families serve each other and there's no tallying. I don't know about you, but in my marriage, it was always scoreboarding. It was always tit for tat. There was never like, just no. Like if I'm at the store and I pick something up for you, I don't expect you to pay me back, because then when you go to the store and pick something up for me, I'm not going to pay you back.
Yeah.
No, I'm not asking for lobster while you're asking for spaghetti.
Right.
But it's like, I don't like that energy. I can serve and I'm going to serve. And when you can serve, you serve. And that's fulfilling.
Yeah.
And there's nothing left for that. And I'm so grateful for that, because the days, I feel like, because you and I both work closely with God, there's days where you're like, hey, I have dinner planned. And I'm like, I'm half the time say I'm going to cry, because it's literally, I'm like, I couldn't today.
Yeah.
Today was going to be peanut butter and jelly, which is still fine. No criticism there.
Thank God, because my kids had that twice this week.
Totally great. I love it. But I was like, to have that whole chore off my shoulders. So like my gratitude journals, I stopped writing how grateful I am for you, because I was like, this is just going to be like the Julia journal. I was like, God, just know that, like,
since I'm dying first, will you bury me with that? Will you put that in?
No, we're going to attach it to your headstone and people can look it up.
Perfect.
It'll be digital. It'll be great.
Perfect. That idea has been challenging for me and has really stretched me. The whole service not being a tit for tat kind of thing, because that's not what life was like in marriage. Everything had strings attached to it. Nothing was just freely done or given. Love was never freely done or given. Service was not freely loved or given.
Yeah.
And so that is something that I have really had to work hard on. And
I'm so glad to offer you places to stretch it out. You're welcome.
And it's still a challenge for me sometimes, and doing better with it.
Yeah. But it's interesting, because there was a day where you're like, thank you. So every Wednesday her work day is heavy. And so I'm like, I will feed the kids every Wednesday. And there's a day you're like, thank you so much for doing that. And I was like, I love it. It serves, like, I love having all the kids at my house and us doing dinner together. Like, we have a little routine now, and I love it. We miss you like crazy and wish you were there.
Same.
But I love that we get to have that. But then the feeling that I had when you're just like, I went to battle for you, it really, like, I'm still like, I have like aftershocks in my body of just like how amazing that is, because sometimes I don't feel like I go to battle for myself. Mm-hmm. And you're willing to. And
so I love that, because that, service, it looks different.
But also my
black
needs
and white.
And your needs are so different. So why would the way we serve each other be the same?
It's not black and white. There's not a checklist.
Yeah.
We're both doing what we feel led to do.
So that goes into one of the nuggets, is spend more time with positive people. And there's a couple other notes in there that just talk about surrounding yourself with good people.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened with us. There's so much with how this relationship and you guys moving here has been so flawless in the way that we handle things, is because we're both good people.
Yeah.
And I know your heart and you know my heart. So when anything happens, we're like, oh, I don't really like that. You're like, I'm always going like, oh my gosh, she's going to hate me. And in reality, you're like, no, I know your heart.
Yeah.
I know that you're not doing maliciously. And I'm like,
yeah,
you do? I had no idea people had that. Right? Because that wasn't my marriage. It was always like, how dare you? Why would you hurt me? And I'm like, what? We're the same team.
Right. As if they think that you're the worst person.
Yeah,
in the whole
I'm
world.
against them.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
But so I think that is a good segue at, talking about spending time with positive people into something that's heavy on my heart is toxic positivity. Which is big.
Yeah.
Right now, I feel like.
Yeah.
And so there's a balance. We are not glossing over everything that we walk through with positivity.
No.
At all.
No.
We are facing things head on. We are processing in a very real way. And then, yes, we have gratitude and we have positivity, but that doesn't mean that we're just glossing over the hard parts.
It's a part of the process to go from where we start dealing with the hard stuff and getting on the other side and learning from it. It's a small part of the process, but in no way, shape, or form are we going, here's a big battle. Don't have any emotions other than positivity. Because there's lots of times you're like, I don't need any positive words. I just need to vent about this. And I'm like, yeah, go for it. Mm-hmm. And then half the time I'm bitching about stuff too. And I'm like, oh, now we just have a big bitch fest. But I think the important part is we don't let ourselves sit in that space. You had an analogy that you brought to our friendship years ago where you said, I need to be in the dirty river and I need you in the dirty river with me. And then I need you to tell me when it's time to get out. Or when I get out, I need you to come with me to get out. Or you would remind me, don't stay too long. And it's that idea of don't build a house in hell.
Yes, yes.
And so I think that toxic positivity is where we're not letting ourselves feel the emotions. And we have Dr. Jared Nielsen, he always says emotions are neither good nor bad, neither right nor wrong. They're information. And that was one of the things in here that I had skipped over, but it's feelings are information. That's all that it is.
They're good communicators, but they are not factual
They're
truth.
not facts. But they showcase where you need, but you, sit in anger, sit in frustration, be pissed off. Don't stay.
And so I think, let's give some really real examples then.
Yeah, let's do it.
So
We've got a couple.
So I think one of the hardest times for me was during the divorce, when all of that was going on. I found out a lot of him being unfaithful, and that sent me to a really dark place really fast. And I remember going over to my coach's house. And
Your weightlifting coach.
Yes. I don't remember a whole lot of what was said. I remember not being able to breathe a lot, and a whole lot of tears. And there were a couple days where I couldn't function. Like, I couldn't eat. I couldn't.
Yeah.
And so she finally looked at me and said, "I love you. You have 3 days."
Yeah, she gave you a timeline.
She gave me a timeline.
Perfect.
She said, "You have 3 days. And then you're getting up and you are eating and you are moving and and I needed that."
Yeah. Yeah.
I needed that tough love. So she gave me the time to process what I needed to, but then it was time to be done. Yeah, it was
Big girl
time
panty time.
Big girl panty time. And I needed that tough love.
But I love that she gave you that space first.
Yes. Yeah.
I love that it's
Which
like,
is so
absolutely
important.
feel all of those emotions.
Yeah.
Gather that information and then go and do something about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part of the healing that people don't get. That's where you stick in victim space, where you always are finding outside resources as to why you're going through a hard time, instead of saying, this is hard and this is how we get out of it. And you can't, sometimes you have to feel a lot of emotions before you can find your way out. And it's just it's part of the process. But walking around life just going, okay, I'm positive. It's like, cool, but like, do you have emotions?
Right. Are you human?
Yeah. So one of the things that we both do with our kids is, we talk a lot about how words have power, right? So the kids say something negative and we go, words have, and they all scream power. I feel like we've got them well trained with so many things.
That has to be another TikTok.
Yeah, we should do a TikTok.
Yeah.
All the things that we say that the kids do. So we have an affirmations app. And so periodically through the day, an affirmation will come up. I started saying it and having everybody around me repeat it. And now that I've got these 11, 12 more people who are with me most of the time, it's loud. But I love it because they repeat it and they're understanding that their words have power and saying good things are positive.
Yeah.
And so there's a time and a place for we are not going down that negative road. So when kids are like, oh, this kid said a mean thing to me at school, we don't need to sit there and feel that. We know it's not true. We know it's more about that kid. We don't need to process anything.
Yeah.
We need to go, do you feel like that's true? That's what I asked my kids. I was like, do you feel like that's a true statement? And they go, no. And I'm like, don't give it any more time. Say something positive. But then when there's bigger things that are deeper and we have to process, we give that space. So there's like, it's a two-way street with that.
Right.
We don't give it a lot of energy if it doesn't need to. We give it the time when it's supposed to. And no matter what, we always move forward with what did you learn, and the positivity and the or the gratitude comes then.
Yeah.
And now we're at a point where, we're praying and we're like, I'm so grateful for my trials because I got over it. Yeah. And I have all these lessons I've learned. And my kids at first were like, you're grateful for the trials? I'm like, yeah, because I got to learn and I got to grow.
And I think that a huge thing for both of us has been learning that opposite emotions can coexist.
That one's so hard for me.
It is.
But yeah, to be grateful for something and to be angry at it at the same time.
Yes.
Or be in a situation going, this doesn't feel good, but it also feels good. I don't understand that one.
Yes. So so another real example. I don't have the luxury of being able to just take work off when I'm sick. My lessons are all online right now, which is amazing. Which means that even when I am sick, I can still teach.
Yeah. Yay!
So right. So then I have this, when I was sick back in October, right?
Yeah.
I'm running 102 fever. I'm popping 4 Advil and half an energy drink 45 minutes before I start working. And there's part of me that is so angry that I'm in a position that I have to do that I cannot take off time when I really need to.
Right.
And there's another part of me that is so thankful that my job is online and I am not missing out on income.
Yep.
And yeah, it's not fun, but I'm working from home. I'm
You're
online
with your
teaching.
babies all
I'm
day.
with my babies. Like, so there's
Yeah.
those coexisting emotions, right? And that is,
It's
that's
hard. It's hard because I feel like there was a lot of times where me having a hard time, because my job is similar in the sense of I get to make my own hours and my responsibilities don't go away. I have to get the stuff done.
Yeah.
And so that, like, so I don't ever feel like I get to clock out, but then it also gives me the freedom to go, I need to be up the mountain right now.
Right.
Right. So like those are really conflicting where I feel like I never get a break, but then I get to have a break whenever I want. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The weight's not off my shoulders when I clock out.
Right.
So, and so when I'm frustrated with that, it makes me not feel like I'm being grateful. And you have brought me back to that space often. You're like, you're allowed to feel both of those at once. You're allowed to feel grateful for this job that is serving you and your kids so completely, but then also really frustrated with it. That doesn't make it, God's not going, well, just be grateful I gave you this great job. He's like, no, I get it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that so much because I always want to be grateful because I never want to take this second. We talked about it in a previous podcast. We both feel like we have a second chance at life, and I never want God to feel like I am taking it for granted.
Yes.
And I'm hard on myself with that. And so being able to know that I'm allowed to feel gratitude and frustration for the same thing.
Yes.
I need that. I really need that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. It really sets the tone for the day. And so at the end of my time with God, I will spend a couple minutes just thanking him for everything that I can think of. There's something really powerful about that sets the tone and the attitude, the atmosphere in my home for the day.
I love that. Well, let's do our gratitude at the end of our episode of our gratitude podcast. Yeah, you know what I mean. Okay. I am grateful that this is a lesson that I got to learn years and years ago. So it was in practice before the divorce. And now that my kids are going through some of the hardest things we're all going through, we get to sit here and even have dark days and see how much stinking light we have in our life, how much we have to be grateful for. And so I think that's part of why we talk about how awesome our kids are. I think it's because they're used to being in a space of light and gratitude and recognizing God's hand. And I'm just so unbelievably grateful that our friend Ashley and her friend Tiffany put on this podcast for gratitude and generosity so that I could learn that lesson years before, so that it was so rooted into me and my soul that when I needed it the most, it's like a flourishing plant and we're leaning on it. And I'm so grateful for that. So I'm grateful for gratitude.
I love that. I love that you can look back and see God's hand from years before you left.
Yeah.
He was like, she's going to need this.
Yeah. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
Case in point. Yeah. He's like, oh, in 10 years, you're going to really, really need her. We'll start this now.
I love that. Well, kind of along the same lines, I am really grateful for my relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
Awesome. I went through losing a baby at 3 months pregnant. And through that, my relationship with Jesus really grew and became really, really solid. And I went through this Bible study with my coach and some girlfriends. And I just remember going, why do you have me doing this right now?
Yeah.
Like, why would you have me do this right now in such a dark time, in such a dark place? I would get so much more out of this in a different season when there's not, right? But going through that journey, which will have to be a whole nother episode, solidified my foundation in him. If I would not have been able to walk through the divorce and everything that I've walked through in the last 5 years if my foundation had not been so strong with him.
Right.
So that when everything was crumbling, when everything was threatened to be taken away from me, I could still say, I trust you.
Yeah. And you've done such an amazing job. Like the way that you've handled that, I think is going to be such a powerful thing for other people to watch what you've walked through and say, no, I trust you. And then to watch that faith, like just play out and it working out.
It's amazing.
Okay.
So cool.
All right. We'll see y'all next week.